Hello, my name is Julie, and today I am going to be reading the least read books on my TBR. So, several months back, I did a recommendation video that went pretty well that was 10 great books you've probably never heard of. And in that video, I recommended you books that were under 10,000 reviews on Goodreads. After making that video, I wanted to make sure that I read some more books that were even in that threshold. You all voted on this vlog idea months ago. Thank you so much for doing that. If you want to be able to control what type of vlogs or content I do in the future, I do post on my community tab polls about that sort of thing pretty regularly. As with most vlogs where I don't know what my TBR is, I have 3 rules. Number 1, I want to read one book that I already own. Number 2, I am okay with buying one book on audiobook from Libro.fm. 3, that last one has to be available from my library. I'm not buying 2 books. And the last rule for this is because books that are new have fewer ratings, I wanted to eliminate anything that is a recent enough release. I filmed finding out the books months ago, and I did 6 months from that point. It has now been more than 6 months, but nothing has overtaken the 3 books that I ended up finding. So let's go back in time to past Julie finding out what books she's going to be reading. I have my 2 TBR shelves going. I have a want to read and a keeping an eye out shelf. The want to read is mostly books that I own, books that as of this moment, I am sure I want to read. Keeping an eye out is more of a place for me to bookmark things for later, for me to wait to hear more about, do more research on. I'm anticipating that my keeping an eye out shelf is going to be the home of more of these lesser known books. But we are going to look at both of the shelves. We're going to sort from number of ratings and we're going to go ascending. Okay, so we're going to start off with a bunch of books that haven't come out yet. We'll start that way on the other side as well. Number ratings, ascending. Bunch of books that haven't come out yet. So I saw 1, 2, 3, 4, top 4, 5, 6 books haven't come out yet. Let's start at the keeping an eye out shelf. So our Subtle Art of Folding Space and Cleopatra are both 2026 releases. Savage Bloom is late 2025. Isle in the Silver Sea is also late 2025. The Moon and Back, I think, is coming out in like a month or so. Persephone's Curse is later this year. Hot Wax is later this year. Wearing the Lion, I think it comes out in a week from when I'm filming this, and I do plan on reading it upon its release. We Love You Bunny hasn't come out yet. Automatic Noodle, Princess Kills Monsters, Hemlock and Silver. Yeah, that hasn't come out yet. Dust by Alison Stein. Let's see. I definitely don't own this book. It has 156 reviews. It came out December 3rd, 2024. So I don't think that is in the spirit of this challenge to do a book that is exactly 6 months old, but we'll hang on to it. And it is available from a library that I have access to that is not close to here. Let's go into my to-read shelf and finally find the books that have come out. This is not out. That just came out like this week. Not out yet. That came out this week. Oh, wow. Oh, that's fantastic. Okay, with 3,778 ratings, which you see how quickly it took. Literally the only book that is out has 3,000 ratings on here versus the other ones were down in the hundreds. So The Battle Drum by Sarah L. Reefy. This is the second book in the Ending Fire trilogy. I don't own that book yet, but I would happily buy a full paperback to read that for this, but I don't think that's how this is going to go. Hazelthorn, that's a 2025 release. Sharp Endless Need, I believe I just added this to my TBR like a week ago because Marissa Crane. Yeah, this is 2025. Sapphire Altar. Oh my God, awesome. Okay, that's a sequel that I need to read. So that is for sure a book that has been out for a while because that has been out for over a year. I think the 3rd book in that trilogy came out last year. So it has 654 ratings. The next book up is I Am the Ghost in Your House. And it is a YA horror about a girl who is invisible, which is interesting to me, but I don't read a lot of YA anymore. So Sapphire Altar, I'm the Ghost in Your House. Neither of those are books I own, but both of them have been out for long enough for them to count for me. So we're going to look at the next one, which is On Vicious Worlds. That one came out like 8 months ago or something like that. Little Universes by Heather Demetrios is another book that I don't own, but I know this book has been out for years because I've had it on my TBR for years. But, oh, we finally come upon a book that I actually own, and that is The Stars Undying by Emery Robin. This is a science fiction reimagining of Antony, Cleopatra, and Julius Caesar. I have been so excited about this book, and I bought it really cheap, and then I found out that it also has a really low rating on Goodreads on top of having low readership, and I feel like if it had higher, it would have done better. Alrighty, so our books. So, the least read book on my TBR that has been out for a significant period of time is The Sapphire Altar by David Dalglish. You know, I didn't really anticipate a sequel being on this list, but maybe I should have. The Sapphire Altar is the second book in the Vagrant Gods series. This is a trilogy. I started this 2 years ago. The first book is called The Bladed Faith, and I genuinely picked up the series because I saw the publisher post this cover when this book was being announced, and I was like, that is the prettiest cover ever. I have to go get it. The first book in the series actually was in my 10 Great Books You've Never Heard of video. And so this book has only, at the point of filming this intro, 696 reviews on Goodreads, and I quite enjoyed the first book. This series is about the island of Thanet. So there is this empire that a couple of years ago came and took over Thanet. Our main character is Cyrus, and he was the prince of this island before his family was killed and taken over. And then a little bit later, the empire ended up killing their god. In this series, there are these giant animals that are gods native to each region. I picture them as legendary Pokemon. One of them's a butterfly and one of them's a lion, and I think of them as what the Sun and Moon legendary Pokemon. Cyrus has been training for years under the rebellion to try to be an assassin, and he has been like a masked vigilante for the last couple of years. Hopefully, I can further recommend you this series. The second least read qualified book on my TBR is I Am the Ghost in Your House, and this has 871 ratings on Goodreads. This is a YA horror, which I don't put a lot of YA on my TBR anymore, but this synopsis really intrigued me when I put it on the TBR, and I have never taken it off. But this is about a girl whose name is Pi. Nobody can see her, and her entire life has just been her and her mom traveling from place to place. And Pi wants to be able to live a life, and there was a girl that she fell in love with when she was in Pittsburgh, and so she is wanting to try to get there to get to her. I don't know a lot about this, so I'm really curious to see how the horror elements are going to be used in this book. My guess going into this book is it's going to have a lot of commentary on like parental control. I'm not crazy optimistic about this, but I am so intrigued by this premise. And that last book I'm going to be reading with 1,270 ratings is The Stars Undying by Emery Robin. I had no idea that this book was so little read. If you watched a couple of months ago, I read the 3 worst rated books on my TBR, and this book, not only is it on this list, it was 1 book off from making that list. However, this premise has intrigued me. This is a space opera duology that is inspired by Antony, Cleopatra, and Caesar. It's a queer, spectacular space opera debut, and it is about our main character who is a princess. Her country just had a bloody civil war, and her sister has become the queen. And there is this other conquering empire that is coming by. She decides to get in with those people, and she is putting herself in the hands of the Caesar type character and is intrigued by the Antony type character. Unfortunately, that does mean I will be adding a series to my TBR if I really like this. So I'm almost hoping I don't like it so I don't add it to my TBR. However, it's only a duology if I do like it. So I am optimistic about this one, even if the average star rating would make it think that I shouldn't. So because I have this out from the library, I'm going to be reading this one first. I'm going to pick up I Am the Ghost in Your House probably today or tomorrow, and then read the one that I already own. I did low-key forget that I was doing a vlog, so I'm filming at a pretty inopportune time given the lighting and that my hair is wet. I can tell you I'm 100 pages into the Sapphire Altar. Cyrus is our main character, but we have a bunch of different people that we are seeing the perspective from. And Cyrus received some very interesting news at the end of book 1, and he has been really trying to grapple with that, and he hasn't been able to tell anyone that information, especially because that calls into question some of the people who he has been working with the whole time. Everybody else still thinks this person is cool. So this series is very much about colonization. It is tackling it on the forefront. We have some characters who have been trying to stop this empire in so many different countries' revolutions, and they have like gone around traveling trying to help these people, and those are some of our main characters. There was a scene that has already happened at the beginning of this. There is a character who's defected from the empire, and that's like how we found him in book 1. And he finds someone from his past who is like, you should come back to the empire. And they have a very interesting conversation. The person from his life is saying, oh, you're being such a child saying that the things that you're doing are any better than the things that we're doing. The empire is good because it keeps peace, and there would be so much war if the empire wasn't making war all over these different places. That is exactly the type of rhetoric imperialist people use. It's like the classic argument against self-governance. And I thought that scene in particular was super great. Here's my deal. So I read this first book 2 years ago. It's actually interesting. So this book and The Unbroken, both of these are very little read fantasy series that I gave the first book 4 stars to, and I read them at about the same time. The Faithless, the second book in that series, I read like a couple weeks ago. I am remembering so much more of The Unbroken than I am of The Bladed Faith. I am actually struggling to remember who's who and what their relationships are. There is a page, maybe 2 pages at the beginning of the book that says, for those who need a reminder. And it basically just tells you like the name of the character and why they came to this island. It does not give a very good recap of what happens during the book. It gives you the summary of like what happened at the end of it. I'm struggling to remember what any characters look like, so I'm grasping on to straws like, please, can I get a description of who this is? Like, especially because I'm like, I want to know who this person on the cover is, because I have 2 theories as to who I think it is, and there's seriously no information online on who each of the characters are on the cover. The first character on the cover is Cyrus. I'm gonna put all of the covers of the series on like the full illustrations on the screen, because my goodness, is this not like some of the best illustrations I've seen for fantasy? And like, I would love more fantasy books to look like this. People are like, oh, I don't want people on the cover. I'm like, this is what I mean when I say I'm cool with people on the cover. This is the type of people I want on the cover. I forgot how queer this book is. There is a plot in the first book of one of our main characters is Sapphic. The island that they're on now was queer norm, and then the Empire comes in and they're like, that's against our rules, so it's been banned and everything. We just had a character that is trans talking about how the goddess that they worshipped had a ceremony specifically for trans people. It was a really cool idea for a ceremony as well, and that person feels so connected to that god that has now died, and that's in the synopsis of the first book, and they're like desperately trying to bring back these gods by any way possible, if it's even possible. We also have a character who can like shapeshift into the form of a different god. Like, it's really interesting how the magic is playing out. I just wish I had a better memory of these characters and their histories in the first book. I've had a couple of books like this where they have the summary at the front, and I wish that publishers would allow these summaries to be longer. Give me like 5 pages if your book's 300 pages. I don't think it's that difficult. I'm worried that even though I'm liking things that this book is saying, and I like the world and everything, that because I don't remember the first book that well, that I'm going to have to leave this series unfinished. We'll see. I'm making my spinach Alfredo pizza that I love so much. The rest of my day is gonna be absolutely freaking bonkers. I need to read another 100 pages of this. I need to edit. I need to prep for D&D that's in 2 days, and I don't have time. This is basically my only day to prep until D&D starts, and I know that I do not have the time. Luckily, it's going to be all combat and it's out of a module, so I should be able to, rely on that, but I have never been so massively underprepared for a session, and I am stressed out. Let's resist burnout. Let's get done what I need to do so I can rest at the end of the night. I have gotten to the halfway point of the Sapphire Altar. If all was going to plan, I would have finished the book today. I'm not done with my reading for today. I'm gonna get to hopefully the 300 page mark. My goal for today was to get to the 400 page mark, but that's just not happening. I had 2 days where I simply did not have any time to read. I had maybe 20 minutes a day if everything else I needed to get done got done. I'm trying to let it not bug me, but I have spent multiple hours trying to dedicate to reading this book, and I am finding that painful to do. I don't think there's anything wrong with this book.
I just cannot get it into my head. Like, I am just sitting here desperately trying to focus on the page and I can't do it. I turned on some white noise. I put on focus friends so I couldn't get into my phone. I don't think I've ever done this before. I started trying to crochet while reading this, and that actually worked, but I have ended the part of my project where I am able to just do it mindlessly. I would have to start counting, and you can't count and read at the same time. It's not going to happen. Like I was saying before, there's a lot of messages about colonization, specifically when it comes to religious focused colonization. I was trying to do a little bit of digging about stuff about this book. I saw an interview with the author that said that a lot of his inspiration here was growing up in a very deeply religious area, and I can really tell because it's talking about how people are using their religion to justify all of these things. There are so many different types of faithful people to their own beings, but it is this idea that people think that because they believe that there is one true God, that it needs to go everywhere. And people who do not believe in that one true God are a problem and need to be shown the light and everything instead of, respecting other people, especially because in this world, the power of gods is literally the belief that you have in them, and the prayers and everything, no matter what they are, increase the power of the god. And over the course of this series, we have started to see that has caused people to become more powerful, normal everyday people born as mortals, which calls into question, how were these gods created in the first place? I just think that there are some really interesting things going on, but I cannot, for the fucking life of me, pay attention. I have had, honestly, one of the most strange, stressful weeks of my life. I had a major brain fog for days and days, and I don't really feel that anymore, but I am feeling it when I'm trying to read. And I don't know if it is the book or if it is me. I think it's not being helped by the fact that I don't remember a whole ton. The thing that I will say that I'm not liking about this book, there's not a lot of plot, it feels like to me. Sometimes there will be plot that happens off screen and then we'll just see characters debrief about it later. I would say there's 2 events that have happened so far in this book, and then the rest of it has been people talking to each other, and a good amount of the book so far has been the same piece of information being disseminated to different people at different times and kind of seeing their reaction. Maybe the back half of this book is gonna be so good, maybe I'm gonna wake up in the morning and be in such a mood to read, or whatever the deal is. The words are just slipping past my eyes, and I'm not seeing things, even when I can really appreciate the sort of discussions that this book is having. And I think that this is good, and I would still super duper recommend it, but I don't think I'm having a good enough reading experience to really push me to read that 3rd book. I'm going to check in with you when I'm done with this, and hopefully it'll be tomorrow. I'll let you know if it's not.
Hello. I look a mess. I feel a mess. My last vlog in this one, I felt like absolute trash. To give you a little bit of context, I stressed myself out so much with the amount that I had planned for last week that I pushed myself to the brink of a breakdown without fully going over. But because of that, I completely forgot a lot of things that needed to happen for me to be a fully functioning adult. That has bit me in the ass. In fact, it has caused me to have to go home from work early today because of something unexpected that came out. And I was like, oh, okay, fine. I'm having not a fun day, but I voted, had a local election today, so did my civic duty. And I also did finish the Sapphire Altar. So I did not finish it like I wanted to yesterday, but I did read 125 pages yesterday, so more than my usual. Proud of that. I just finished the last 25 pages for my lunch. I was at the 50% mark the last time I talked to you, and now I finished it. I was talking about how there wasn't a lot of stuff going on, and I stand by that in the first half, but the second half, a lot of different things started happening. There was definitely a ramping up. I do think that the plot doesn't feel the most natural, if that makes sense. This thing and then this thing and then this thing happened rather than a very smooth plot flow, if that makes sense. But maybe that's again because of my reading experience with this. I think that this is having really great themes around colonialism and specifically religious colonialism. It's talking about what kind of figures in leadership are worthy of following. There are a lot of people who mess up in this series. There's nobody who's like a perfect protagonist. Like everybody fucks up in some way. Most of them like learn from their mistakes and like ask for forgiveness and everything. And I think in a way that could be really healing for people. I think that the discussion around religion here is interesting. And also because the gods in this world, they are tangible creatures that even after death, there are still remnants of them that exist on the planet that you can point to and be like, yes, this person existed and still exists even after death. That like brings the conversation to that speculative sphere. It's not a one-to-one of like actual religion because of that. I just really appreciate how this decides to talk about the different political aspects that it's talking about. I did think as the book went on, I did have a easier reading experience, but it was never easy, not because this book is difficult to read, but I did find myself reading at about half of my normal pace. But the ending of this book had like 3 separate plot twists. It had a lot of big things going on, and I think that it just really shaped up well for our characters. I do think that they, went on good journeys. A couple of my notes of things that I didn't like. Number 1, there's this huge earth-shattering, culture-shifting piece of information that is given to us at the end of book 1. Everybody individually gets their own interaction with this piece of news over the course of this book. Not a singular person ever has any sense of denial, even when they are being told these things by their enemy, who are like known for propaganda. Also, I think that our main character, Cyrus, in this book was just not as interesting as most of the other characters. He didn't feel like he had a lot going on, in my opinion, but like this is a multi-perspective fantasy, so him being the main character is more about him being like the impetus of the plot rather than him being like 70% of the perspective. It's way more balanced in this book than it is in the first book as well, because the first book is definitely about him and he's on the front cover and he's not on the front cover anymore. And I would like to say there was definitely a moment when it became apparent to me who was on this cover, because I thought that there was another constraint on it that meant it couldn't be that character. But I really liked the reveal of like what the deal is with the person on the cover. Like how did this specific image come to be in terms of the book? At the beginning of this book, I was thinking that I would not be continuing in it, but honestly, because of that ending, I am really curious to see how this book wraps up. So I am planning on continuing on the series, which is encouraging because that means that I can sort of get over that hump. It is going to have to happen pretty soon. I think I'm giving this a flat 4-star. I don't think I can in good conscience give it any more points than that because I had a negative reading experience. It could go down to like a 3.5, 3.75 in terms of my personal reading experience, but I like definitely would not put that on Goodreads because I want people to read this book. So yesterday I did get my copy of I Am the Ghost in Your House. I thought this book was 300 pages. This is 400 pages. But the font is big. I'm going to read 100 pages of this before the end of the day, even though I read 125 pages of that, because honestly, if the font's going to be this big, that's fine. I'm 150 pages into 400 pages of I Am the Ghost in Your House. Okay, this is surprising me how much I'm liking this. This has a pretty low average rating. It's like a 3.7 or something, and it's a YA book, and I don't read a lot of YA anymore, so I had pretty low expectations for this book. There's a lot more information we have gotten about the situation. Our main character, her name is Pieta. Her mom is invisible, and she herself was born invisible. She has never met another invisible person in her life except for them, and they just live stealing what they can, trying to survive. They like sneak into people's houses behind them when the doors open. I like that there are rules being established for how being invisible works. So her and her mom can see each other. The way that they reason this out is that they are actually a little bit like infrared. So they can see a little bit better in the dark than normal people are because they can see infrared. So like she does not see her mother as corporeal. She sees her mother as like kind of see-through. So they can see in infrared and people can't see in infrared. So I'm wondering if somebody's ever going to use like nighttime goggles or something like that and try to see them. That would be interesting. And the invisibility works that like anything that is directly touching their skin is going to become invisible. So they have to like very creatively decide what they are going to touch with their bare skin and what they are not going to. When she's just walking around, she is going to wear gloves so that if she like touches a wall or she touches someone accidentally or something like that, it's not going to go invisible. But if she wants to steal something, she takes the glove off and takes the ginger ale, and the ginger ale is invisible. One of the main things that is the setup of this book that is not addressed in the synopsis at all, and this has never happened before that she has noticed, but her mom says it has. Her mom is disappearing occasionally. She's ill, like she was like throwing up or something like that, and then suddenly she's disappearing for a little bit and coming back, and Pi's like, well, what is it like when you're gone? And her mom's like, it's just like void. Pi cannot see her mom when she's disappearing. But they're stopping in Pittsburgh because when they stayed in Pittsburgh years ago, she saw this girl and she ended up falling in love with her, like following her around and everything. And it is a little bit of a stalkery situation, but like she literally doesn't have any choice because she has no ability to like interact with people normally. Like if she like tries to announce herself to somebody, people are gonna get scared or whatever. She's never been able to be social. And of course she's going to be doing that for the first time in this book. Her mom is not feeling well, so they end up in Pittsburgh following a girl into their house. The mom disappears, and like she has not been able to find her mom for days. But also the girl who she is in love with is actually friends with the girls that they are in their house. Pi has like introduced herself to a person already, and this person is like, oh my God, has it finally happened? There is a history of mental illness in their family, so she's not entirely sure that she actually believes that Pi is real. The only thing that I'm not enjoying about this book, I think as the book has gone on a little bit more, less so, but it's a little bit too focused on this love interest for me, but I think that this book can like grow around that and everything. But I am really enjoying this. It's very, very quick to get through. I showed you how many freaking words are on a page. It's not that many. I can tell that I'm not like 100% locked in, but I am so much more absorbing what's happening in this book than I was in the Sapphire Altar. I'm actually really, really liking this. I appreciate our main character, and I think that like the amount that the speculative element is being built out is a really fun amount. I would really love to have like a brand new book to add to that list of obscure ones nobody's read. I am going to hang out with some friends tonight. It's a weeknight, so I'm a little bit like about that because I feel like I'm not gonna have enough time to do everything. One of my friends has decided to host a book club and just invite the people over who are on our team who like books and just talk about books and have some snacks. I'm feeling much better than I was yesterday, but honestly, I am pretty tired, so we'll see. Alrighty, I gotta get going. Bye. Hello. I'm picking up my groceries, and I finished I Am the Ghost in Your House at work today. I quite enjoyed this book. I do think it exceeded my expectations. I think I just checked today. It was like a 3.78 on Goodreads. I'm like, I think it deserves more than that. The main note that I was seeing a lot of people saying is that this cover, it's saying ghost in the title, and also like the second genre on Goodreads being horror made people think that this was going to be a horror book. This is not a horror book. This is a magical realism book. Like, it was number one was fantasy, which this is more a contemporary fiction book with a speculative element than it is a fantasy book. The only element of it that is horror is that she is similar to a ghost. Several times people are like, oh my God, there's a ghost in my house. And people like exorcise the house or try to find the bad spirit or whatever. So that is misleading people a lot. I went in with the right expectations. There is one detail that I forgot to mention in sort of the early parts of this book, and that is that Pi, while she was born invisible, her mother was not. We know that her mother, when she was a teenager, something happened to her. It's never spelled out, but it is very obvious what happened. She turned invisible one day and ran away. My main note for this book was that the crux of the plot is about Pi and her mom. So much of the book is spent away from the mom and more about like, oh, the main character is like not used to like living with other people, not used to other people knowing she exists and that sort of thing. And I think I would have gotten a little bit more out of this book if it spent more time developing the mother-daughter relationship. And I see that that's not really what the book was going for. It's allowing Pi to kind of become her own person and like let her be in the real world for the first time. I would have been a little bit more invested if it was more about the journey of the two of them and their relationship rather than like some of the plot is like having like teenage antics. And I'm like, I'm not sure how much of the teen stuff was super for me. And that is my problem when I read YA, is that there will be some subplot that feels like a teen movie, and I'm like, they never feel realistic to me. I don't know. But there's also the things that we do get about her mother. There will be these vignette chapters, and they'll be maybe a page long, that'll do some sort of like short scene that is a backstory. And I did really like that element of the storytelling. I think that this is a book that if I was a teenager reading it, I think I would have loved it even more. I did end up liking the direction that the romance plot took. Thought that that was like the right amount, and I think the author did the right thing. I would definitely recommend this to YA readers. I think if you're a person who really likes magical realism, you're an adult who still reads YA, this is 100% be one that I would recommend. And I'm really glad that I read it for this video, because I almost took this off of my Goodreads TBR several times, and I'm super glad I gave it a shot, because it was better than I thought it was going to be. I think I guessed that this was going to be like a 3.5 or something like that, but I could easily give this a 4. Now we're going to start The Stars Undying, which I know is going to take me a freaking long time. I don't know how much time I'm going to have to read this weekend, because basically all of our plans got canceled because it's going to rain the entire weekend and nobody's in town. I don't know what my plans are at all. See you later.
Hi, it is past 1 in the morning. Today I filmed my Will of the Many video, and I feel like I'm dying. I think I lost a little bit of my voice. My feet hurt. I don't know, I'm out of it. But I am now 100 pages into The Stars Undying. It's been several days since I last saw you. I had read the last 50 pages of I'm the Ghost in Your House on Friday. I wanted to read 50 pages of this on Friday. Didn't happen. I read 50 pages of this yesterday, and I wanted to have gotten to the 200 page mark by the end of today, Sunday, and that didn't happen. I barely scraped by at the 100 page mark. I don't think I'm clicking with this either. I'm having the same problem as I had with the Sapphire Altar, and I'm wondering if it's just like I don't have the brain capacity for high fantasy, high sci-fi right now. I think that might be it. So this is heavily inspired by Cleopatra, Mark Antony, and Caesar. It's a duology. It's called The Empire Without End, which is super fun because that is one of the original Latin translation of Empire Without End from the Aeneid, is one of the section titles of the Will of the Many, which I just did the whole thing of. So our main character is Gracia. I don't know how it's pronounced, but it's Gracias without the S. She is one of the princesses of this place. It's spelled SZA yet. You know, it's SZA, like, you know, SZA of Control fame. I'm sure it's Zayet, but I want to call it SZA yet because that would be fun. So there's this planet, Zayet. 10 generations ago, her great whatever, came to the planet, and his name was Alexo, and they call him Alexo Undying. And he came to this planet and took it over from all of the people there, and he established his empire, his family's rule there. And he died shortly after coming there, and there is a pearl that he has passed down through the generations that is supposed to be communing with him after he's died. And it's really like, I believe the truth of it is that there is a computer program in the pearl that is supposed to be mimicking Alexo to the best of its ability. So it's basically like an AI model trained on this guy, and the ruler is going to work with that. And like, we've kind of seen other places that are not this planet see this as a cult. And our main character, Gracia, she is a twin. Her and her twin sister were raised by their father, the king. He has since died. Our main character was his chosen heir, but it's supposed to be that Alexo, through visions, tell the heir who it is going to be. Gracia has worked her entire life to be the ruler. She is incredibly intelligent. She excels in all the subject matters. She has even learned the language of the people that her people have conquered, when nobody else has fucking bothered doing that. Arcelia is her twin sister, and she has been like rough and tumble her whole life. Like, she basically spent all the time that she could like hanging out with the guards. And Gracia was like, well, obviously I'm gonna be the heir. And their father ends up dying. This twin is saying, oh, I'm actually hearing things from Alexo, and that means I'm the heir. Our main character's like, obviously she's fucking lying. Her sister essentially seizes the throne because she has the power of the military, and there's been a civil war going on for a while. There is, in another part of the galaxy, there is this conquering empire. It's like the Ciano Empire or whatever. It's CEIAO. There's one consonant in that word. This is like when Brady Shea was on SNL.
Yes, that is a S, a K, and a J all next to each other, so that's a nope.
There's this guy, Siren, I think his name's Marcellus, whatever. He's the Mark Antony character. And he is following his former mentor, is like going against the Empire, and he is having to track her down, and he tracks her to the planet that this civil war is happening. And so we immediately cut to our main character is like running away, trying to get to this satellite off planet away from her sister, at the same time that this guy has like come to the planet and is talking to the queen, her sister. But a lot of our time has been spent in the past with Gracia, finding out the backstory and type stuff. So I did a little bit of research on Cleopatra before reading this, just to like, you know, make sure I was up and seeing what stuff is actually inspired by her versus what's made up by the book. And obviously the Alexo character is going to be Alexander the Great. The Ptolemy family was Greek and not Egyptian, and they were installed there by Alexander the Great, and Cleopatra was actually the only known Ptolemaic ruler to actually speak Egyptian, which fascinating. And she was the desired heir of her father, and it wasn't given to her, so there was a civil war. So obviously that's where that comes from. The Mark Antony character is gonna get put here, and they're gonna, I'm assuming it's gonna be a little bit like a love triangle in this book, because like Mark Antony has shown up first, and then like when's Caesar gonna get here? Honestly, I would have assumed he was the Caesar character. Did his name not start with an M and resemble Mark quite a bit? I am interested in the book, but I can't force myself to read. I keep going on my phone because I worked so hard fucking all day. When I was not working on that video, I was cleaning my house desperately, and I'm tired and I want to go to bed. So we'll see. I feel like reading this book is going to be like pulling teeth, even if I think it's good, just like the Sapphire Altar. I just don't think that I'm in the headspace for this, and I'm wondering if this is like what a slump is.
Hello, I just had to come here and do a quick update. I'm at the 130 page mark. I'm definitely going to be reading more of it today than I did yesterday because I feel like I'm understanding more. We finally moved on beyond like person name, place name, and I can understand what's happening. But dude, the guy that I thought was Mark Antony is Caesar. His last name starts with a soft C sound. It's like Siran or something. Of course he's Caesar. But I thought his name was also, I thought they told us that his first name was Marcellus or Marcus or something like that. So I was like, oh, Mark Antony. But no, he goes by his last name, Siran, so of course he's Caesar. And they just had this Cleopatra character come in and do the fucking rug scene. And she's like hooking up with him and using him to get her throne back. And like, duh, of course he's Caesar. That's been fun, actually. Oh, the other thing, there's been an interesting thing about the narration. It's told in first person, but like occasionally, specifically the Cleopatra character Gracia, that she is telling this to somebody. There was like one or two lines that are in second person referring to a you. And then there's one time where she's like actually lied about what happened. I'll give a full update later. I just wanted to update those things.
I have gotten to, I think it's just under, almost exactly at that 50% mark of The Stars Undying. I'm a fucking idiot. I think it was around like 125, 150 that I realized that a female character named Anita is the Mark Antony character. I had not read the synopsis of the book in a while, so I think I would have figured that out. And I knew that this was a queer book. But I think what surprised me, I was anticipating that Antony was going to be a perspective character. I'm assuming that this book is going to be about the time in Cleopatra's life where she's with Caesar, and then maybe the second book is going to be the time in her life where she's with Mark Antony. So maybe book 2 will be Gracia and Anita, or maybe later in this book Anita will be a POV. But it was just surprising me. Like, I was under the impression that this was going to be a little bit more about Mark Antony than it was about Caesar. This is a slow political book. In this second act, there hasn't been a lot of plot happening. Even though it calls itself a space opera, it is in no way action-y. So I think maybe the cover and it calling itself a space opera has led people to believe that this is going to be like action-packed. The book that I would most compare this to is the Tix-Kalan duology, but the Tix-Kalan duology is much faster paced. So Alexo Undying is undying because there's a computer program that is mimicking him. He is seen as a very impactful figure, conquered all of these different places, but only one planet still worships him as a god. The empire that he was founding, that is the Roman part of this, generations after Alexo's death, the priests of him had completely taken advantage of everyone, and the people had to have a revolt against the priests. So they don't like religion at all. So it's like Caesar has come to Cleopatra's area where she's very religious and whatever. Oh, yeah, haha. If you're looking at my wall, I haven't taken down my Will of the Many stuff yet. I've already done it. I'm pretty proud of it. I actually sat down yesterday and I edited it for a total of 4 hours, and I got over halfway through the footage. I'm really proud of myself for doing that. I do hope that I can get it down to 2 hours flat. I think it's going to be longer than that. It is taking a good amount of brain power to get through this. I am having a good time, and I have not eliminated the possibility of finishing out this duology. I think it'll depend on the ending, but I thought it was really weird. I decided to look up the reviews of this book because this book has a 3.45 on Goodreads, and I was like, that's really low. I scrolled through the top reviews on Goodreads, and a remarkable number of them are 5 stars. I have never seen so many 5-star reviews in a row for a book, which seems really strange considering how low the average rating of this book is. But the couple of people who I saw were just it was really slow. I'm not having a huge problem with that. It does feel fucking long because it is. And I'm really hoping that we get more actual movement of people, things happening on the page rather than just discussions. But I am really enjoying seeing the characters play off each other. If you can see my room, ignore that it's a mess. If you can't see my room, you don't know that it's a mess, and I'll never tell you. I did finish The Stars Undying last night. Past that 100-page mark, I don't think my thoughts on this book changed a lot, except for the fact that I do think that last 100 pages is by far the best of the book. I think that this book is very low on plot. Yeah, it's a political, but so few things actually happen on the page. Several very important moments happen off screen. Have you ever seen that review of Pride and Prejudice that was done on Amazon that says just a bunch of people going to each other's houses? That's kind of what this book was. And that's not to say I didn't like it. I do think it was very rough getting in because they just throw so many things at you at once that you cannot absorb everything that's going on. This book would have really been helped by having a map and a glossary. Even if we don't even, go to a lot of these places, just the sheer number of characters who are mentioned a couple of times. I don't need anything serious. Just give me a glossary. I think that this portrayal of particularly Caesar and Cleopatra in this book was interesting and engaging. The thing that I was most interested in was this as a retelling. There was one piece of technology that is used throughout the book, and I thought it was used in a very interesting way to talk about empire. It's being used as godhood here, but it is setting up an empire and everything. And I think the way that interacted with the Caesar Cleopatra story was really interesting. The thing that I probably had the most fun with was discovering which character is what historical figure and figuring out what was going to happen next based on my knowledge of history. I do think, even though this is definitely critiquing these leaders as like not good people who do bad things, he is a major figure in this book, and is he romanticized? I mean, you're certainly seeing him in a much more positive light in this book. I think I'm gonna give this like a 3.5. I just don't understand why this book is so long. It felt like nothing happened in the middle of this book. I think that this should have been shorter. I am actually really curious to see where the next book goes. I don't know if I would be as curious if I knew it was going to be more books than just one. Obviously, the duology is going to end with Cleopatra and Mark Antony's deaths. In real life, maybe one of them won't actually die in the book or whatever, but it's going to end with their deaths. Sometimes while reading this book, I forgot it was a sci-fi. I'm like, oh yeah, these people are not dressed in historical garb. They're dressed in sci-fi stuff. With a couple of exceptions, you can kind of forget that. It is a set dressing over the story rather than like really a linchpin. I was just really invested in seeing the three major characters interact with each other. That's what sold me on this book. I didn't really think the political stuff was doing it for me as much because I think a lot of it kind of just, it didn't feel super consequential the way that it was delivered. It felt very distant from me. This book is the like second lowest rated book that I physically owned. I do not think that this book is bad as its average rating is. I think it is kind of mismarketed. I think that this is for people who want a retelling of history rather than people who are space opera sci-fi people. So if you're interested in that, I think this is worth a read. So I think all three of the books that I read in this video exceeded my expectations in one way or another. I do think I screwed myself over with the Sapphire Altar. I did not feel invested in the characters as much as I would have hoped to, but that ending was really great and I really like the messaging of that series. I am planning on finishing out that series next year. I Am the Ghost in Your House was a total surprise how much I enjoyed that book. I would say is it my favorite? I think it might be my favorite book of this video just purely based on enjoyment. This one, I get it being rated lowly. I do not get it rated below a 3.5. So these were definitely more obscure books that I was not going to prioritize. I honestly could have taken some of these off of my TBR on a whim, but I'm glad that I pushed myself to read the lowest rated books on my TBR. So thank you so much for voting to have me do this vlog. This was definitely an interesting one, and I hope that I have turned you on to some books that you might want to check out, or at least encouraged you to try some more obscure books. I would love to know what are the least read books on your TBR, and what are the least read books that you've read and loved. And if you don't have anything to say to me, you could leave a ghost emoji for I'm the Ghost in Your House. I'd love to say hi to you there. If you'd like to find me anywhere, I have a bunch of links in the description to everything I do on the internet. And you can subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And you can put on notifications if you want to find out when my videos are posted or find out when I put out more polls like determining what this vlog was. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.